Well, last year, the FDA said that they wanted to do more to attract diverse participants to clinical trials. The goal came after the White House said there was a disproportionate disease burden for underrepresented communities.
Yeah, that means people of color are being hit harder by diseases, all because medicines and treatments haven't effectively been tested on Black and brown populations. Well, a local woman is working to change that one diagnosis at a time, and another woman I talked to says clinical trials actually saved her life.
I had to make the decision for myself and for my children at the time, ages 9, 4, and 3. As a single mom, I had to choose life.
Tammy Barnes says 25 years ago, she took a chance on a clinical trial after a HIPAA violation in her small town made her health public knowledge. Now, Tammy says she still participates in trials because she's proof they can work.
When something didn't work, they were on it. If I needed to be hospitalized, I was immediately hospitalized and monitored around the clock. My one doctor, he's the chief investigator. And if I text him, I get a response.
The FDA says in 2020, 75% of clinical trial participants were white, 11% were Hispanic, 8% were Black, and 6% were Asian. But the U.S. Census shows the overall population is 61% white, 18% Hispanic, 12% Black, and 6% Asian. Dr. Edelisa Martin says that points to a problem.
The people that participate in clinical trials are not truly representative of the people who are going to be taking the drug.
That's why she's the CEO of M&B Services. It's her job to increase diversity in medical clinical trials. But Dr. Martin says it's an uphill battle.
Not just in clinical trials, but in healthcare. There's been disparities and injustice that has been perpetuated really for hundreds of years. Everybody reflects back to the Tuskegee experiment. So many things have been put in place to protect people. All of the protections that have been put in place for people participating in clinical trials, the informed consent, the regulatory bodies, that things have really changed.
Late last year, Public Law 117-328 was passed. It requires diversity action plans for clinical trials used by the FDA to decide whether drugs are safe and effective. Dr. Martin says that's a great start for her to come in and bridge the gap for communities of color and cutting-edge health care. And for the under or uninsured,
clinical trials can also be an option for care. Diabetes or high blood pressure or any type of cancer, you are not going to get a sugar pill. You're not going to get a placebo. You'll get at least the standard of care.
Tammy says she prefers the level of care she's getting in clinical trials. And when it comes to getting more diverse representation,
it's vital to the study of care. The whole person is being studied in a clinical trial, but for the benefit of the next person.
Okay, so this story focused on racial diversity, but there is so much more to add, like age, where you live as far as urban or rural spaces, and a lot of other factors. Now, this is a really big decision for any patient or family to consider. So coming up for you tonight at 6:30, we'll tell you where you can go if you'd like more information and where to see if there are any clinical trials in your zip code, because they get that specific. Type in your zip code and you can see if there's a trial in your area.
And I think it's important for people to understand that these trials are not a first step. I mean,
exactly.
These medications have already been tried out along several different animals and along the way. And so by the time it is given to someone, they should be pretty safe. It's more just figuring out what's the right dose, when to give it to them.
You know, I've had the benefit of covering clinical trials for years now as a journalist in my career, and I got to tell you, a lot of the people that I interview, when they talk about it, they really like the level of care that they're getting in a clinical trial.
You are monitored. They don't want anything to go wrong.
They don't want anything to go wrong. So, you know, it's a big decision to consider, but because there's this FDA plan to increase diversity, we thought we'd share.